Good morning, Asean. Freshen up your world, your thought, your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Nira.
And Amina Tungbersit. It's Friday, the 26th of July, and elections in Cambodia is getting much closer.
That's right. It is actually taking place this Sunday, Kunvina. But the thing is, there's a lot of things, many things going on, including this one, as the Permanent Committee of the National Assembly yesterday refused to restore opposition leader Sam Rainsy's parliamentary immunity due to his current status as president of the Cambodian National Rescue Party, or CNRP. The newly formed CNRP currently doesn't have any seats in the National Assembly. The decision was made after a meeting by 9 members of the Permanent Committee of National Assembly yesterday morning, and they convened in order to discuss and make a decision on his immunity request. Sam Rainsy, who has just returned from home exile, sent a letter on Tuesday to the National Assembly chairman Heng Samrin requesting the restoration of his parliamentary immunity, privileges and validity after receiving a royal pardon from the king 2 weeks ago. It said in a letter issued by Heng Samrin to Sam Rainsy that the Permanent Committee of National Assembly couldn't restore his immunity and privileges because His Excellency or Sam Rainsy had become the president of the CNRP, which doesn't have seats in the Assembly. Sam Rainsy had been stripped of his parliamentary immunity by the National Assembly following a 2011 court verdict sentencing him to 10 years in prison for uprooting border posts along the Cambodian-Vietnamese border. And in early June 2012, the National Assembly had expelled 28 lawmakers belonging to opposition Sam Rainsy and human rights parties, claiming that they were not eligible to remain as members of parliament because they had joined the newly formed CNRP. Rainsy, who is a main challenger to Prime Minister Hun Sen, is campaigning yesterday with Kem Songkhla in Svay Rieng and Prey Veng provinces before today's campaign in Kampong Cham's ending in Phnom Penh.
Next special report is also on the Cambodian elections, which is expected to be another victorious Sunday.
A royal pardon allowing exiled Cambodian opposition leader Sam Rainsy to return home is taking some of the heat off Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Sen, but the respite may be short-lived as the international community narrows its focus on upcoming general elections that many expect to be tainted with irregularities. The 64-year-old charismatic leader of the Cambodian National Rescue Party, Sam Rainsy, will still not be able to contest in the elections in spite of his attempt to please the election committees and lawmakers. Rights groups are concerned that Hun Sen's administration and his ruling CPP will continue to use the courts and other tools to intimidate Sam Rainsy and other opponents in the elections. According to Phil Robertson, the Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch's Asia Division, no one should be fooled that the return of Sam Rainsy means that Cambodian elections will be free and fair. There are major problems in the electoral system that could deny Cambodians a credible vote. One of them is a widespread rumor that a certain number of Vietnamese migrants has been welcomed by the government of Cambodia and now waiting in a long queue to apply for Cambodian national identification cards. The process takes only 2 to 3 days. It is assumed that these Khmerized Vietnamese will vote for Hun Sen's CPP on several good conditions in order for them to live and earn in the land of Cambodia. Hun Sen once said during the election campaign that a win by the National Rescue Party would provoke a civil war and a war with Vietnam. But the CNRP's spokesman Yim Silvan dismissed Hun Sen's statement totally, saying that the party supports peace and its policies would not provoke war, either within the country or with its neighbors, adding that Hun Sen's comments show he fears losing the elections. Moreover, Robertson cited issues over voter registration lists, the lack of independence of the National Election Committee, which manages the country's elections, the use of civil servants and army personnel to campaign for the CPP, government control of mass media to slant the news, and intimidation against opposition figures and civil society monitors. Analysts, however, said Hun Sen will benefit because Sam Rainsy's return helps ease political tensions and is seen as art of a political compromise and reconciliation, factors that may boost the vote's legitimacy. Sam Rainsy, on the other hand, will be able to enhance his party chances in the elections by particularly attracting the young and undecided voters. The fact that Sam Rainsy can return to the Cambodian political era gives a lot of hopes and aspirations to the voters, especially the youngsters, who comprise 36.5% of the registered voters. From the business and investment perspective, there are no signs of reluctance on the part of foreign investors to expand their businesses and investments in the country. Most are still confident that peace and stability will be maintained, and political and economic reforms will continue to deliver results. The local business community, it is still believed, generally prefers to see the maintenance of a political status quo. Yet, the next government will need to deepen public administrative reforms with concrete development policies based on the principles of inclusiveness and sustainability. To realize this vision to be a middle-income country by 2030, the new government will also need to support strong and responsive public institutions, a resilient private sector, and an engaged civil society. If held freely and fairly, the election process will contribute to peace, stability, and continued development in Cambodia. The Hun Sen-led political leadership will most likely remain the same, but the next government will need to sincerely and seriously implement political, social, and economic reforms to maintain its post-election legitimacy. Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi reports.
Earlier this week, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe kicked a 3-day visit to ASEAN as he hoped to strengthen ties with the region. Speaking to reporters in Malaysia's administrative capital of Putrajaya, Abe said he will focus on enhancing security operation with the ASEAN countries after his Liberal Democratic Party won a landslide victory in Japan's Parliament Upper House election last week. As a result of the Upper House election, my policies have been given trust by the Japanese citizens. So again, under this backdrop, I intend to implement strategic diplomacy, which should make contributions to regional and global peace and stability. I told Prime Minister Najib I'll particularly focus on the ASEAN countries, said Abe. Both sides also discussed trade and economic cooperation, education exchange, and maritime cooperation during the one-hour talks, said Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak. We look forward to enhancing security cooperation, particularly in the field of anti-piracy, and to ensure the safe passage of international ships to use the Straits of Malacca, Najib said, referring to the stretch of waters in western Malaysia. Najib added that tensions on the Korean Peninsula and South China Sea were issues also on the agenda, but no details were given. Abe's visit was in conjunction with the 40th anniversary of the ties between Japan and ASEAN countries. Abe will visit Singapore and the Philippines next.
And U.S. President Barack Obama yesterday met with his Vietnamese President Truong Thanh Sang as Vietnamese Americans gathered outside to protest the Vietnam's human rights record. During the meeting, Obama acknowledged what he called the complex history of the United States and Vietnam, but he said that the two countries have achieved a degree of mutual respect and trust in order to forge a partnership. He said that him and his counterpart discussed the ways in which through the Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP, in which both the United States and Vietnam are participating in, and what will be an extraordinary ambitious effort to increase trade, commerce, and transparency in terms of commercial relationships throughout the Asia-Pacific region. Both leaders say they expected to complete the trade pact by the end of the year. Obama also praised Vietnam's commitment to resolving frictions with China over the South China Sea, which is one of the world's most important waterways. They both also discussed the need for continued efforts to resolve peacefully maritime issues that have surfaced in the South China Sea and other parts of the Asian Pacific regions and the U.S. He said that the U.S. very much appreciates Vietnam's commitment to working with ASEAN and the East Asia Summit in order for the U.S. to arrive at codes of conduct that will help to resolve these issues peacefully and fairly. The Vietnamese president said that he hoped to resolve the dispute diplomatically by peaceful means in accordance with international law. Outside the White House, Vietnamese Americans from across the U.S. called for President Obama to hold Vietnam accountable for alleged human rights violations. A coalition of labor and human rights groups on Wednesday also urged President Obama to suspend free trade negotiations with Vietnam because their treatment of workers and people who criticize the government. A recent report by the Worker Rights Consortium, a group of university administrators, students, and other advocates that monitors working conditions in foreign countries, say that Vietnam should be required to correct a variety of human rights violations before striking a free trade deal with the United States. The report described cases of forced labor and child labor, pregnancy and gender-based discrimination, health and safety hazards, and excessive working hours and inadequate wages. In addition, the Human Rights Watch said in a recent release that Vietnam has jailed an increasing number of dissidents, bloggers, and religious leaders, holding them for a long period without access to family or legal counsel, and often subject to torture or other mistreatment.
Moody's Investor Service may finally grant the Philippines an investment grade after it put the country's credit rating on review for upgrade, the debt watcher announced yesterday. The country is rated Ba1 under Moody's metrics, the highest in junk grade status, putting the New York-based debt watcher behind its rivals, Fitch Ratings and Standard & Poor's Rating Services, which put the Philippines at BBB- investment grade. The Aquino administration has targeted reaching investment grade status, seen to lower debt interest payments, open up more credit avenues, and lure more foreign investments to the country. In a statement, the Philippine economic performance was said to have exceeded Moody's expectations against the backdrops of still fragile global external demand. This as inflation remained manageable with no strong signs overheating being seen. The government's balance sheet has also shown some improvements, Moody's said, with the debt burden continued to decline while revenues are seen improving. The Philippine economy expanded by above target 7.8% in the first 3 months of the year, pronounced as Asia's fastest for that period. This was achieved with the rise in consumer prices remaining benign at 2.9% and of the first half of the year.
And coming up next after the break, we're going to sail together along the Andaman Sea with Kun Sathapat Pathong in Urbanista. Stay tuned.
We'll bring up an interview we had yesterday. Our reporter had Kun Pasuran Dechapurangsi had with Sam Rainsy, the opposition leader for Cambodia, and that's regarding the elections this Sunday.
Mr. Rainsy, so firstly, it's been told that the stronghold of your election is based in Phnom Penh with all the youngsters and young Cambodians. How about in the rural areas, in the provincial areas? What was the response during your campaign now?
Our support basis has extended to all over the country now. Even in the remote provinces, we have people who come to support our party. This is an unprecedented surge in the support for the opposition throughout the country.
I see. So what is change that you're talking about? How Cambodian people want change?
Yes, definitely, because we have the same ruling party for 34 years. We have the same prime minister for nearly 30 years. So people are fed up. They want a change.
So what kind of change can you give them?
We wanted to reduce corruption because corruption is rampant in Cambodia. And corruption creates a lot of injustice for the poor people. So the poor people, the ordinary people, they realize that as long as they have the same government,
Right.
they will endure injustices and poverty also. Poverty is persistent because of corruption precisely. So we have to put things right. We have to reorganize the whole system.
I see. So what is your last chance this Sunday? What is your chance? How much you expected?
I think there will be an overwhelming support. The ruling party is very, very afraid. They prevent me from standing as a candidate.
I see.
Don't want me to stand against outgoing Prime Minister Hun Sen. But nevertheless, I think the ruling party will lose, and the balance of power will change. But I know also that the ruling party has a plan to steal votes and to manipulate the elections. Starting the voter list, there are at least 1 million of people who have been disenfranchised. And there is also at least another million of ghost voters who will be used to inflate the votes of the ruling party.
I see. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam Rainsy. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, unfortunately, Kun Veena, since we have the report of the Sam Rainsy, we run out of time for our Urbanista, but stay tuned for next week as Kun Suthapat Pathong will take us to sail along the Andaman Sea. And that's it, the time we have for today. Stay tuned with us, same time, same place, same channel. I am Nirasha Malisaklami.
And I'm Veena Turmusit. Thank you so much for joining us. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ